Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Roofing Contractor, Walls and Ceilings, and Building Enclosure. Welcome to our legal insight update with CEO of Trent Cotney with Cotney Attorneys and Consultants. And I'm also honored to be joined with Rick D'Amato, our editorial director from Roofing Contractor. Trent, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Jill and Rick. It's always good to see you guys. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Well, there's always a lot to talk about. So, Trent, since we last spoke, the federal government announced some changes to the Paycheck Protection Program loans. So can you break down what contractors need to know? There's a lot going on there.
Sure, absolutely. And this is a constantly changing thing, just to give the listener some idea of how quickly this changes. We've had reports this week of contractors trying to get a second dip. If you remember, a while back, a few months ago, they allowed contractors to potentially go get another Paycheck Protection Program, a second Paycheck Protection Program loan. But in order to do that, you've got to be able to show certain things. You've got to be able to show at least a 25% dip quarter to quarter from 2020 to 2019, among other things. Well, the timetable that some of these big banks are taking to process this stuff is out of control. The deadline is March 31st. And I've heard that the average wait times on some of these just to get the ability to get the application is somewhere between 2 and 3 hours just to get somebody that will process it. So there is a lot of frustration over the forgiveness process at this point. There's a lot of frustration in applying for this second draw. But recently, just a few weeks ago, they came out with some additional guidance where they wanted to really focus on small businesses. Those were 20 or less. And they put them at sort of the top of the list for a couple of week period. Now, that period has expired, but you can see that they're still trying to push the businesses that are the most affected by COVID-19. So you can expect that there'll be some continued push towards that as we get towards the finish line, which is right now March 31st for any of those additional draws.
So if you're a small business then and you missed that, is there anything else you can do to try to get yourself back to the top of the list?
Sure. I mean, obviously you still have time, right? I mean, we still have a month, get on that phone, listen to the whole music, it's going to be a while. Okay. Some of the smaller banks already have their act together and have the applications ready, but we have heard complaints from multiple contractors with big banks, like I said, just can't get to where they got to go. Keep in mind that there's economic disaster relief loans that are still available. There's other economic assistance, both on a state and a federal level, that you can potentially look for. But the Rolls Royce of packages out there is the Paycheck Protection Program. It offers just such significant benefit. If your loan is forgiven, you can still, use it as a taxable expense. If it's not forgiven, it's such a low interest loan, almost a non-existent interest rate, that it just makes sense to get it if you're eligible. Now, cautionary word, always be very conservative in your application. Make sure you're always telling the truth, make sure that you've got all the economic information to back up what you're saying, but it's available. Most of the contractors out there that I talk to on a regular basis have taken, the time to go ahead and apply for at least a first draw. And many of them are looking at a second if it's applicable. So it's out there, take advantage of it.
Well, good to know, Trent. And on another subject, there's been an incredible amount of price increases recently, especially with lumber and steel. And I'm hearing that many contractors are bidding jobs that might not take place till, Q3 or Q4. And if there's additional price increases that pop up, what do contractors need to do to make sure that what do they need to include in their contracts to make sure that they're protecting themselves?
Well, that's a great question. And, we've already seen the increase in lumber prices, right? That was last year. We've started to see the increase in steel prices. And one of the things that I'm starting to hear is that as a result of the winter storms and some of the shutdown of the refineries, you can expect that asphaltic-based products, there's going to be a price increase on that. As we continue to cycle through COVID-19, manufacturers continue to have shutdowns. There continues to be supply chain disruption. So this is impacting not just commercial, it is impacting residential. The ability to find materials has become very difficult and has delayed a lot of jobs. So what we recommend is obviously, take a look at your contract for purposes of delay, especially as it relates to COVID-19. But also if you're bidding now, consider a price acceleration provision, which provides that if any material line item goes up by a certain percentage, we usually say 5%, but you can put whatever percent you want, that you're entitled to an equitable adjustment to account for that. And the key is keep in mind that if you, let's say you sign a contract today, okay, great example is condo work. Okay, you sign a contract today and you don't start work for 6 months. Okay, if it's a fixed price and you have a fixed price allocation for those materials in there, technically, if the price goes up, there is no additional consideration that you're providing that owner. Okay, you are bound to what's in that contract, and the owner can stick to that legally. So what you have to do is be able to create a mechanism through the price acceleration provision or something similar that gives you the opportunity to recover that increased cost. Otherwise, you're stuck to it. And as we've seen in the past, if steel goes through the roof, if lumber goes through the roof, a lot of times you're eating this cost. So another good rule of thumb that I like to always say, Jill, is, good relationships with good suppliers. Buy your materials in advance, buy them and store them. If you can, get a fixed price allocation for the materials that you use the most and know that you've got it at that price, it's well worth it, So invest now because everything I am seeing suggests that we're going to see an inflationary period on at least the most critical roofing products for the next few quarters.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens for the rest of the year for sure. But since right now we're now in March, we all know it's tax season is here. And with that being upon us, are there any tips you have for contractors, and are deferrals available again?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. This is a very complicated tax year, primarily because of COVID-19 and a lot of the different stuff that came out. So as I've told you guys before, I usually have to count on my fingers. So I rely on our tax group and corporate group to kind of keep me straight. And they've been working on a lot of different things right now for a lot of the contractors. One of the things is the Consolidated Appropriations Act that came out just last year. And that there's an extension for the payroll tax deferral. And what they've done is they've extended the period that you can withhold having to pay payroll tax through December 31st of this year. Obviously, there might be an either or component there, depending on whether or not you took a Paycheck Protection Program loan. So you want to talk to your tax professional about it. Some other things to keep in mind is there's still a tax credit available under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act that you could potentially get for 2020 time. There's been discussion in the Stimulus Act that's been proposed now about being able to renew that and bring that back to the forefront. So there's that possibility. There's also an employee retention credit through the CARES Act that you could be eligible for. So bottom line, there's a lot of different things that you can do. Now, the one thing I want to hit home here is really pay attention to how you categorize your Paycheck Protection Program loan. Okay, if it has been forgiven, that is one thing. It may count as income or revenue on your bottom line, but you can still potentially take the expenses that you use to justify that forgiveness. If it's still an outstanding loan, then that's a different story. That is not necessarily income, and you need to talk to your tax professional about how to deal with that, because what you do with that loan, let's say, if you took the loan and it was forgiven in 2020, that's a very, finite set of circumstances that impacts tax year 2020. If you took the loan in 2020 and it was forgiven in 2021, that could potentially involve 2 tax years. So you really want to think about how to set yourself up to limit your potential tax liability.
Yeah, very good insight. Rick, I'll flip it over to you.
Thanks, Jill. Trent, always good to see you. Thanks for being here, and thanks to all of our viewers and listeners. Trent, I usually am the one that likes to go away from DC, but I'm going to stick there for just a minute. Put on your hat as the General Counsel for the National Roofing Contractors Association. Let's talk a little bit about Roofing Day 2021. That's going to be virtual. That's going to be a little unusual. We have done this for a couple of years already. Planning on going myself. I'm registered. I know you don't have to be an NRCA member to register. All roofing contractors should take a look at this. Let's talk about what folks have to do to get involved in it, and also what are some of the things that NRCA or leadership talking to you about for the things that we're going to be lobbying for when we get up there.
Sure. So I've been fortunate to have attended all the past roofing days, as have you guys, and it is one of the best things that I do all year long, because what it does is we all go back to our respective locations and we lament and we talk about, oh, if this were, when you go up to DC and you're actually talking to the legislative aides, you're talking to the reps, you're talking to the senators, you're making a difference, right? And that's why we're all part of this industry, right? I really got to see how things work. I got to better understand the process. I also got to better understand how I could make an impact, and that was very enlightening to me. So yes, this year is virtual, but this is a huge opportunity for not just management to attend roofing day, but invite your crew, invite people that normally don't get the opportunity to have this kind of interaction. It is a very unique thing, and a lot of the topics that are raising are incredibly timely. One of the biggest ones for me is immigration. I think we have a favorable administration this year. I think this year there is significant opportunity for us to make a difference with getting immigrant workforce that is legal into our markets. So that is something that I am obviously looking for. Rick, I know you are very passionate about workforce training, as are we. That's something that I think that there's also a lot of opportunity on. Dwayne and Terry and everybody at NRCA, obviously Reed, with his background as a former congressman, the insight that they provide is unparalleled. I mean, you really get, I can't think of a better way. Reed has been there and done that, and you really get to understand what the process looks like. So I really encourage, please, if you're listening to this, attend, because your voice matters and numbers matter. So sign up. It's easy. You can do it, do it from your conference room, do it from your office, do it for wherever you're at. But definitely recommend that you attend.
Thanks, Trent. And to our listeners, it's nrca.net. You'll find a link to Roofing Day 2021 right on that website. And I got to agree with you. And that's a great point too, Trent, about having our troops attend this. Anybody active in the roofing industry, it's very inexpensive, and you don't have to travel. And it is enlightening. It will be a good experience, I feel sure. And knowing the way NRCA operates and knowing Reed, it will be set up right. It'll be a worthwhile experience. So thanks for your comments on that. And we look forward to it. Mm-hmm. One other thing on my mind is I've been reading a lot lately about Shingle Mountain. That refers to at least two. I know there's probably more, one in Denver and one in Dallas that have been in the news lately, which is these, quote, shingle recycling centers where a business concern will set up a dump, take fees for dumping shingles, and with the promise of recycling them. Only, to my knowledge, that's never really been perfected. The amount of shingles compared to the amount of demand for recyclable shingles, it's pretty big delta there. The first one I saw these back in the 1980s, down your neck of the woods, actually. It ended up the same way, just a big pile of shingles, and the company going broke and everything else. Here's my concern for our contractors. You go in and you buy coupons to make a dump there, or you pay and you go on record as dumping at one of these sites. Could you help to go back and clean it up?
So
is there any joint several liability there?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, I saw the news too, in particular, I saw the one in Dallas, and, dump fees are always something that contractors are concerned about, especially residential contractors. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And while there is some emerging technology out there that suggests that there may be a light at the end of the tunnel of shingle recycling, it's not yet widely adopted, and it is still an issue. So one of the biggest issues that I saw with the Dallas Shingle Mountain is that they were grinding stuff up and releasing these toxins and other things in the air in an area that was not too far from a residential zone. So it is cause for concern. Now, obviously, EPA, Superfund type sites, if you're talking about hazardous spills or chemicals or things like that, it's a possibility that they may get involved. we've had a lot of interactions with state agencies who tend to be more aggressive than the federal units, with dealing with everything from air quality to water quality to toxic materials that, we had one situation, Rick, where we were dealing with a improper shingle dump where they had took a pit that was used for fill and was just they were dumping shingles in that. Well, come to find out, it wasn't just asphalt. There was asbestos in there too, right? And I guarantee if you really look closely at some of these piles, you got to wonder, what exactly are you looking in there? So it does cause me some concern. If you're a contractor that's engaging in this type of dumping stuff off, you really want to do your due diligence. If you have dumped a significant amount there, it's possible that you could have some potential liability, especially for some of these state agencies. So I'm not saying that all of them are improper. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe there is some capability to do this. Like I said, I am aware of some emerging technology out there that's trying to do this. But you really want to be careful. Generally speaking, if it sounds too good to be true, more than likely it's too good to be true. So just be very careful when you're looking to do this. You don't want to be a headline. So
I agree, and we feel like it's a great thing if it can ever happen. But 40 years of looking at them trying, it's easy to get discouraged. But all technologies are improving, and I keep thinking one day somebody's going to find that magic bullet because there's an awful lot of tonnage when it comes to roofing, not just shingles, but all in. And the point about asbestos too, they don't have to find much for it to be a really big problem.
Right.
It's out there in the old roofs in places you may not suspect. But at any rate, I didn't want to beat that up too bad, but I did want to hear your thoughts. What else is on your mind? Where's the silver lining this week?
It's been a great week, and I'll just be honest. It is. We've got an IRE going on, and I'm looking forward to hosting a panel tomorrow with Ken Kelly, a Contractor of the Year, as well as Michelle Boykin with Rackley, who I believe, I know they were Innovator of the Year for RT3. So, and then John Kenny and myself. So we're looking forward to talking about latest with COVID-19. Just wrapped up some great board meetings with Western States, had a lot of great NRCA meetings. So it's been a very, very busy week. On average, I've been on Zoom for about 6 or 7 hours a day. So between this week and last week. So, but it's exciting. I think the industry's starting to perk up, and I think, it's starting to open up a little bit, and I'm optimistic that, we'll start being able to, hopefully I'll be able to see you guys in person third quarter. I'd love to see that, if not sooner. So that I think is sort of the silver lining is I think, the information that I'm seeing, the mindset I think is kind of shifting. And I think we've kind of learned to live with COVID-19 to a certain extent. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that there's good things to come.
Well, I sure look forward to seeing you in live and in person. That's going to be something to behold. But we do look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the IRE.
Absolutely.
Jill, back to you.
Thank you, Rick. And thank you, Trent, as well. We definitely are, all of us are really looking forward to seeing everybody face to face. There's going to be nothing better than to be able to do that. I'm sure we will all be masked up, but whatever that is, it'll be great. That is for sure. So thank you again, Trent, for joining us today. Thank you to everybody who's watching. If you have any questions, you can reach Trent at cotneycl.com, or you can go to roofingcontractor.com or wconline.com. And please, everyone, stay safe and healthy, and we look forward to seeing you next time.